Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Lee Flannery. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at AI MINDSystems Foundation, and it is my great honor to moderate a panel of such remarkable industry leaders. We're here to discuss what I believe, and I think we all believe to be one of the most urgent dangers in our society at present, with the broad umbrella of misinformation or the degrading integrity of data, or epistemological decay. I would love to open this panel by allowing each of our panelists to remark on their particular work in that field to open the dialogue. And I think if we could start by let's help our audience understand that this isn't a problem for someday. This is a problem that has been affecting our society and is in an accelerating fashion. So I'd love to hear some of your perspectives on what is most challenging. And I think if we could start with you, Xiaochen, that would be terrific.
Sure, and firstly, thank you, Sandra and the GBBC to invite me. And my name is Xiaochen, and I run AI 2030. And our main mission is to just mainstream responsible AI by 2030. And from that, you can see that while that's when AI is just getting more traction, and then naturally that's the good thing, everyone talking about good thing, positive things, and the productivity gain and all that. But on the other side, that's, immediately we have heard so many concerns and also the real world challenge. And from the deepfake side, that's, really looking at three parts. One is around in our society, three things are most important. Number one is politics, right? And deepfake is really just, already started erosion of the democracy. And we can already see that impact quite a few elections. And then there were deepfake related, message. And then that's just also impacted the result. So then the second important thing is really, around money. And actually, as you can see, that's through deepfake, that's, from the Hong Kong agency lost $20-some million, and then this is not a single thing, and then many individuals and organizations through deepfake, and then really just, in the risk of, more fraud, and then fraud related to, financial loss and all that. So that's definitely impacted the economy really, in a big way. And the third is, the broader speaking, in terms of the technology itself, because of deepfake and a lot of the time that, the trust to technology, the trust to each other becoming a lot more costly. So when the society or the system and the trust cost becoming, more enhanced, naturally that will be translated into a lot of, entropy, and which is bad for the system to continue. So that, in general, are the, big challenges. Of course, that's this is a Web3 blockchain event, and we see that blockchain play a very important role to just, as one of the solutions can bring back trust into the AI system. Yeah.
I'm Scott Stornetta, and I'm honored to be on the first panel I've ever sat on where the word epistemological has been used. Many of you are aware of the early work I did along with my colleague, Dr. Haber, on the early blockchain foundations. What perhaps fewer of you are aware of is that my interest in AI and its development is longer standing than my work on blockchain. My PhD dissertation out of Stanford was actually the first neural networks-based PhD that they issued, which of course means that I'm either too old to be relevant or
no, absolutely
perhaps not in a position to offer some longer-term perspective. I'm a huge fan of the benefits that AI is going to bring to bear, but I very much recognize the combination of polarized political life and potentially declining journalistic standards leading to a real miasma of misinformation and distrust that's growing. And that's what's turned my own attention recently to the issue of verifiably identifying people for who they are. And so that's a current interest.
Thank you, Scott. And Stuart, it would be wonderful if you could speak a little bit to the, not at a deeply technical level, but some of the fundamental Web3 blockchain and affiliated privacy-enhancing technologies, just that set the field of play for us about the tools in the toolbox that our industry has the opportunity to use to protect our civil liberties, our democracy, and our society.
Well, that's a large plate to cover. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Stuart Haber. I'm a cryptographer. I've done several things in cryptography, which I like to summarize as the science, engineering, and art of protecting information in the presence of adversaries. The most important, I've dabbled in several cryptographic problems, the most important of which was tackling the problem with Scott some 35 years ago. We set ourselves to trying to tackle the problem of how to ensure the integrity of digital information. We came up with what I still think is a good solution, and a few more people have come to find out about that solution and appreciate it. Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever that is, knew about it and adopted our solution more or less directly while building Bitcoin, which attracted some attention in the wider world and led to a veritable explosion of technical work on the foundation of blockchain. So going back, Scott and I set ourselves the problem of ensuring the integrity of digital records, bit strings. Now, what do bit strings mean to human beings? Bit strings represent, in general, assertions about the world. We laid the foundations for using cryptographic tools to ensure the integrity of strings of bits. How a string of bits is interpreted as an assertion about the world depends on human language, human social structure, laws, all kinds of activities that have nothing to do with mathematics or computer science. Making the connection of assertions to reality is hard stuff, especially coming a few decades towards the present day, especially in a world where people can't agree on whether that's up or that's up. That's a big problem. The piece of what we hope will help solve the problem, help address the problem, let's not get too optimistic, that Scott and I are working...
No, we can't have that.
...is adding some tools that will help buttress people's use of people's assertion of their digital identities linked to their social identities or presences.
Thank you, Stuart. And I know most in this room are familiar with the Web3 identity primitives and verifiable compute and privacy primitives like zero knowledge proofs and so forth. When we are talking about a very rapid move to agentic AI ecosystems up and down value chains, thousands and thousands of actors capable of moving at nearly the speed of light, and then you inject adversarial actors, actors that can impersonate good actors, the implications for what responsible AI or ethical AI actually mean in that reality are quite a bit different than what that meant even just a couple of years ago. At AI 2030, Xiaochen, you're doing some important work to aid us in how we, at a societal level, tackle some of those problems. Would you speak to that briefly?
Yeah, sure. And firstly, there are tons of responsible AI framework out there, and where that's, for AI 2030, that's, we defined the responsible AI in 6 pillars: make AI transparency, accountable, fair, safe, secure, sustainable, and privacy preserved. And from all those keywords, as you can see, many of them actually also touch how blockchain can be potentially used as a solution. We also defined some, 2030 targets for the society, and some target, like for example, as by 2030, at least 50% of the data used for AI model training coming from diversity data. So using that to address the fairness related. And then similar thing, from the governance side, that how to address the AI governance interoperability issue. We defined, by 2030, and then we can support at least 50, governments in AI governance collaboration, make sure that one country, when they have AI regulation, all that can speak to the others, and then to avoid the silos. Then from the security side, that's, we have also defined the goal by 2030, that's, we can reducing the major AI failure by 90%. So then there's a different, under each pillar, we define a specific, target for the society. And then we translate that into 3 layers, where that's to achieve those targets, and then there are different gaps. The number 1 gap is really awareness, and people, many times that we have seen that everyone's using, even my 5-year-old daughter is using Gen AI, and where that naturally is not, they have this security, they have this responsible in their mindset. So because of the user behavior, naturally there are a lot of potential new risk associated with that. So how to just raising awareness of responsible AI, where that's you don't put your sensitive data, others PI data, or if you're building a system that's you're not abusing other regulation, privacy related regulation, all that. All those awareness are very important. So, event like this from GBBC, that's raising awareness is one thing that we do a lot, and we also partner with others. The second part, the gap is really around the talent. After people understand this is important, not necessary that they can find right people to do it. And because from our traditional education system, that engineers and humanity related discipline don't really talk to each other, and naturally that's when the engineers building AI system without humanity-related background, or in the team, you didn't really put people who have that background in this. And then there's a gap, how to translate the need or business problem into the right solution in the team who are building that. So then the second gap we address is really around the talent gap. We have a lot of courses and collaboration on that. The third is really, around the gap around the solution. When you translate any of those pillar-related responsible AI into action, that means that you need a solution to, for example, remove PI data from database, and remove bias from the models and all that. Those are all the technical solutions. I heard so many times that companies just don't have a solution or have too many solutions, and how you can really just bring the right solution to solve the right problem and reducing costs of search for companies. That's all just matters to achieve the 2030 target that we defined.
Thank you, Xiaochen. And Scott, going back to the idea of the Web3 primitives that are commonly used in our industry in all kinds of identity-related use cases. They're very powerful, and I would assert they're necessary, but they are insufficient. In the work that you're doing at SureMark and generally, could you express how that framework that we're all familiar with in the blockchain community must be extended in order to affect an individual's ability to even act upon or react to what they may identify as a deep fake about themselves, for example?
Sure. Happy to speak to those general principles, but I have to take a moment to recover. Just listening to everything that Xiaochen is going to accomplish has left me exhausted. But I do think there are some unifying principles to your epistemological point.
Am I not going to live that down? Is that what's happening right now? Okay.
I was trying to be light. You know, to me, there are some great unifying principles that really underpin what makes blockchains largely writ successful. Transparency is one of them. Security, the idea that we can collectively do something with respect to trust that could never be achieved before without involving all the parties is, to me, in one sense, the signal contribution to the idea of blockchain. It leads to the decentralization notion. It leads to the widely witnessed event. And those same principles, in our opinion, can now be turned and applied to the digital identity issue. And what we want, I think, is to create a world where everyone can claim their digital identity without recourse to a trusted third party, or even, and this is not an anti-government pitch, even without recourse to the government issuing an identity. I have an identity, and I simply want to memorialize it in a digital sense. And being able to do that in a kind of community crowdsourced way is, I think, the contribution that we're trying to make at SureMark. I don't want to over-exaggerate the similarity, but it's worth noting that our technical white paper has a very familiar ring to it for those of you that are familiar with the Bitcoin white paper. The Bitcoin white paper is Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And our technical white paper is SureMark, a peer-to-peer electronic identity system. So it does bring to bear many of these fundamental principles, which are not just mathematical ones, but also say something about how we can leverage the social fabric to create a standard of trust that is elevated beyond what has gone before. So I think I think you've lent me enough rope to get out a field, so I'll call it at that.
You know, Scott, when you speak about peer-to-peer, we tend to go into protocol, we go into technology, but I'd like to elevate that to say when we hear peer-to-peer, we're hearing people's empowerment. We're talking about individual people being able to reclaim their agency, their dignity, when it has been inadvertently lost in the digitization of society. You know,
I guess I'll use my last 30 seconds, and then I have to be quiet for the next 7 minutes and 23 seconds.
You'll get another 17 seconds.
Because there was something mentioned earlier today, and it's a phrase that I'm particularly fond of, that of leveling the playing field. The constant challenge of capitalism, besides all of the positive fruits it bears, is it leads to these strong concentrations of capital that give those entities asymmetric advantage over others. And being able to reduce that asymmetry really, to me, is at the heart of claiming our identities and then finding a way to wield our identities to both protect and project ourselves is really at the heart of leveling the playing field. The famous Tim Cook quote about advertising that says, what is it? If you're not paying for it, you are the product. And overcoming that fundamental asymmetry is really, I think, something that secure digital identities can do to reclaim our place as individuals.
Couldn't agree more.
I'll turn my mic off.
Stuart, could you give us a concrete example of an area where the current state of the art of Web3-based identity and identification systems falls short of being able to enable an individual person, just as a for instance, to act upon content that is not originated by them or is not under their custody, for example? Maybe you could speak to that just a little bit, perhaps an example.
Okay, there's a concrete example of that is, in fact, a concrete example that Scott and I are addressing with our work in SureMark is that if you, one of you right there at that table, third one over, fourth, yeah, want to comment on somebody's social media posting that says something about you that you don't agree with, you will be able to use a SureMark tool to sign, to add some digital verifiability to what you want to say in public about what somebody else said. How believable that will be will depend on social facts about you and about the person you're commenting on, but the algorithmic tools that we're using add some foundation to the argument and may help things.
Right, you can set the record straight in the sense that people can judge whether you are a truth teller or not, but they can absolutely know that you're the person that made the comment.
And that the comment they're reading on a screen is in fact the comment you made.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both very much. And in the last few minutes, I want to widen the aperture of this discussion. And the context.
It's not wide enough yet?
No, as a matter of fact, it can be intergalactic. So when we're talking, what were you going to say?
If you're talking intergalactic, you do actually have to worry about the actual speed of light.
Oh my goodness, I'm not taking that bait. It's not happening. So the aperture I mean specifically is that a deep fake is one artifact of the actions of an adversarial AI or digital adversaries generally. That is one of a whole constellation of threat vectors and risk factors. Let's look a little bit more broadly at the defensive apparatus against adversarial AI generally, its implications for what that means about corrupting AI models, what it means for safety and assurance in AI models, and Xiaochen, I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. And one thing I have for this specific session is that I'm trying to calling everyone who are in this room to just really try to, take this as an exciting problem to solve. Because deepfake itself is really, for me, it's a blockchain issue, where that blockchain can really be used, at several levels. Number one is, at identifying, where from the watermark and then other type of technology to really just compare and then to tell which one is the true, the real one, authentic, and there that's foundationally identity is a really important issue where that's we already have seen that in the AI company. Then they started to just apply or bring the zero knowledge proof methodology in that angle, trying to just looking at the model level and all that. Then of course there's also the governance after you identify the deepfake and how that problem can be addressed. Then through, for example, DAO, related governance, or there are a lot of very exciting, blockchain related solutions at, the identification, tracing, and also problems like solving the problem, and then blockchain can play a really important role. And there, that's every one of you who are now representing, especially representing a large ecosystem. And if you can just take on as your mission, and I think the whole AI industry can benefit from that. Then this whole society can benefit from that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Xiaochen. Lightning round, 43 seconds. Art of the possible, the what if we are able to inject verifiable compute, cryptographic primitives in the full stack of every dimension of society, and we could trust all of the data inbound, outbound, every prompt flying around. What's the most incredible thing that you want to see happen in the world as a result of that? First Xiaochen, then Scott, then Stuart.
Yeah,
12 seconds.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking for a frictionless economy.
Fantastic. Xiaochen?
Yeah, I would think again it's people and problem, and what are the real problem, and then you bring that to directly to help the people. That's always the most important for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Xiaochen. And Stuart, in a word.
In maybe 5 words. The best thing that could happen is much of the world agreeing that up is that way.
Fair.
Those darn Australians.
Yeah. Back to epistemic solidity. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to my esteemed panelists.
Strong statements.